In my opinion, the 4070 Ti has a few limitations that make it kind of a serious limitation. In theory, in many games, it does match a 3090 Ti and it has a lot less power draw. That is in fact true. But I have a major problem with it. The 192-bit memory bus and only 12 gigabytes of VRAM is an issue in 2023. You don't even have to go to 4K to find these limitations. Let's say you're playing at 1440p and even a new game like Hogwarts, and it optimized or not, you're going to really be blasting through that VRAM and you're going to get stutters. It's simply not going to work at the absolute max settings. You're going to have to turn off ray tracing and things like that, which in 2023 you should be able to turn on at least those settings and get pretty passable performance. That's my problem with it. And if it's happening now in a game like Hogwarts, what about future games that come up? Not every game is going to be perfectly optimized. It just happens that VRAM is going to be something that's more and more in use, especially with more ray tracing. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor, VIP-CDKdeals.com, a Windows 10 Pro CD key. Add to cart, you put in code CC20. This will also work on Windows 11. You want to go into your settings in Windows, change and adjust your CD key, click activate, and now let's go back to the video. And while DLSS 3.0 does help in certain situations, it still doesn't get over that VRAM issue. So that's my big problem with the 4070 Ti. I don't know if that's the reason that it's not selling as well or not. It's really coming down to that price of $799 plus that people don't really want to pay. But remember, if that GPU is already having some issues, what do you think is going to happen to the 4070 and the 4060 Ti? They're all going to have cut down specs compared to the 4070 Ti. And the price probably is not going to be all that much cheaper. If we're seeing 4070 Ti starting at $799, the 4070 is definitely going to be at least within $100 to $200 of that GPU. And that's going to present a serious problem, because what about a 4060 or 4060 Ti? Are those going to come with 8 gigabytes of VRAM? That's not going to be enough, because even though those GPUs may have the raw power to actually do good frames per second at something like 1440p, they're going to have the VRAM limitations when you're trying to put in ray tracing and different things like that, which you may want to do on a next generation GPU, which is going to really hurt their future like upgradability. Their future proofing is going to be very poor. That's why when we look at certain GPUs, remember like the 1060, there was a 3 gigabyte model and a 6 gigabyte model. The 3 gigabyte model very quickly became obsolete. The less VRAM you have nowadays, it's just going to be much more obsolete in a year or two as new games come out that take advantage of using that VRAM. Because remember, the high-end GPUs like the 4090 and even the 4080, they're pushing at least 16 to 24 gigabytes of VRAM. And it's not only the amount, it's actually the bit bus and how fast the bandwidth is. And now AMD has started by giving us more VRAM in general. So that's definitely a positive point towards AMD. Even though it's not the fastest VRAM, it's not as fast as like a 4090 because it's the regular, GDDR6 and not the X. It's still 24 gigabytes and then 20 on the 7900 XT and XTX respectively. And you can assume that even the little bit lower end GPUs may have 16, they may have 12. So they're going to have more than Nvidia. And if we look at games now from, this RX 6000 generation, they definitely perform a little bit better than some equivalent Nvidia GPUs because they have more VRAM when the use case comes to really stress that VRAM. Not every game is going to take advantage of this. That's more focused on rasterization. We're talking more about ray tracing in games that will eat up that VRAM, especially as the resolutions get higher. The 4070 Ti is another GPU that's interesting because look, it's the cheapest next generation GPU. If somebody's looking for a fast GPU and they don't want to spend over $1,000, they only have two options really. Either you find like an AMD new GPU, it's going to be hard to find an XTX, or you go for the 4070 Ti because everything else is going to be last generation, unless you want to go and find like a 3080 or 3080 Ti. But then at that point, you might as well just get the newer one. So there's not that much choice around that price bracket. That's why that the AMD 7900 XTX at $999 is a great value, but that one is not really found very frequently. And the 7900 XT at $899 is a terrible value. That's why it stayed on the shelves. It's a similar story to the 4070 Ti. But anyway, we'll keep an eye on the GPU situation. Remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.